Oh, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order the policy committee meeting, August 8th, noting all board members are here, as well as Steve, Lisa, and Tiffany. If I could get an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do not have any public comments. I don't think we do have any, so big meeting today, a lot of topics. We're gonna kick it off, turn it over to Steve and talk about therapy dog policy.
Yeah, I just was going to mention a couple things first. So Dr. Brown did have a chance to meet with the WCSD, and actually Randy Gutenberg is now representing them for some of their policy services, and we do have some policy updates that we want to bring forward. But on the agenda of committees for the year, this one is slated next for December. So we will ask to hold that one, and then Rebecca and Dr. Brown are going to share, well, they've already shared those with the administrators as far as which ones would need to be updated. And basically, we're going to be working towards, obviously, Ted, you know, for multiple years, you've been working on this big project to like get everything up to date. The point of this is then now, as like a state budget passes and changes things, if we don't like continuously stay on top of it, the district's going to find themselves 5 to 7 years from now having to do the whole thing again. So Dr. Brown and Rebecca are going to be working with WASB/Randy to keep things current. So just for you to know, we do want to keep on the schedule that Dr. Brown put together. But we will be asking this committee to meet in December, and we're going to be working on our own update process to make sure our policies don't get out of date. This meeting today was important because we're trying to get something in place for the start of the school year. So we do know that Dr. Brown was open to meetings occurring outside of the schedule that she put together for any committee when we were trying to get specific things done. So this one, we were hoping to have a discussion today and then Monday, and then hopefully get it in place for the start of the school year. But I will turn it over to our two key administrators on this topic, who can certainly give an overview to the board on this topic.
Thank you, Steve. So therapy dogs in schools is not a new phenomenon. We just haven't had an explicit policy around it. So we have had therapy dogs come in for celebrations or Read Across America sort of things. And we've been following the very general like animals in schools policy, which we feel is just way too broad. So special thanks to Brian Grabarski. He had reached out maybe even last year and pulled policies from other school districts to kind of see what other places were doing, and then our attorney reviewed those and pulled together what you see in front of you. What this policy states is just a very specific definition of what a therapy dog is and what it is not. And then it also provides a very specific procedure to how we would approve. We would like to start at the district level so that it doesn't turn into, well, this building said yes, this building said no. So we are hoping, and part of the reason we want to get it in place for the school year is because our new co-principal at Heritage Elementary, Emily Morehouse, has a certified therapy dog. And we would love to kind of pilot that in one building and go through kind of the approval process. We don't imagine that, you know, this would be in every building and every day by any means, but we want to at least start and make sure that we have a policy that we can be grounded in. The only other thing I mention is there's a lot of research about therapy dogs and their effects on students who have behavior issues, anxiety, mental health issues, and so we would fully support having therapy dogs in schools in a way that we could manage it. What else did I?
Yeah, I was just going to highlight one line, the use of, that's in the bottom of the second paragraph there, the use of service animals in schools. The last sentence, therapy dogs are meant to help all students and are not specifically identified as support for those students with documented disabilities. I think once we have this policy out there, sometimes individuals feel like, oh great, I have an emotional support dog, and we need 500 dogs in schools. That's not the purpose here, that the purpose is really targeted at specifically trained, and that's why I like the policy too, specifically saying it has to be American Kennel Club therapy dog program. Like, we really have control over the dogs that are going to be in our schools, and that they have to be really well trained. So, and the delineation between a service animal and a therapy dog, two totally different things. So, so I like the policy, and as Lisa said about, you know, some students and how, you know, their behaviors may change. You know, when we were out researching alternative programs, one thing that we noticed, I would say out of all the classrooms we visited, the one classroom that we saw students the most engaged was where there was a therapy dog. So it was really exciting because they were really challenging behavioral kids, and they were, out of all the classrooms we visited, the most engaged group. So that makes me kind of excited too for our alternative program that's starting this year, in terms of trying to have kind of a regular schedule where you know, volunteers bring in therapy dogs from specific organizations. So that's why it'd be great to have it in place for the fall.
On the second page, there are two other things I would just very quickly like to highlight. One is about liability insurance. Steve did some homework and reached out to our insurance carrier, and so that's not an issue. And then the health and safety is something that often comes up when we talk about animals or dogs, particularly in the realm of our health offices and allergies. And so we already have a very robust procedure. Our nurses do amazing work. We know students who have allergies, where they are, and so we would proceed accordingly. So if we knew that there was a student with significant allergies, that would not be a space where we just let a dog go into a classroom, for an example. So those are things that sometimes come up as questions, and that has already been thought through, vetted. All right, what questions do you have?
So Steve, our insurance company doesn't need any other documentation or to see this policy or anything?
No, so I just pulled up what they shared with me in June. So they're saying there is no exclusion for dogs on the school district's liability policy, which is big, because if there was an exclusion, we'd have to let everybody know there's no coverage at all. Probably wouldn't be able to move ahead. So there's no exclusion, and then basically what Lisa and Tiffany have put in here is the language they gave us. So the language up there matches the language they gave us for use. You know, it's always important to note that anything that happens in a school building, ultimately the school district will be brought into the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So even though we're putting a statement like that, and the fact that it's saying that there's no exclusion, what that means is ultimately we are going to be a part of a situation if something does go in a negative way. I mean, there's no way to get out of it. And the policy does cover it because there's no exclusion. So that type of a statement basically means you own the dog, you're going to be responsible and liable for damage or injury to people. We typically, in a situation like that, and it was put into the recommendations of the insurance company, we probably should be asking for a copy of their policy before they come into the district. I mean, that's what they put in here.
Yeah, I see the bullet on the first page.
Yeah. So we probably, as a matter of practice, I'm not really sure who is gonna manage this on our end, but that's just a good practice for us, just to make sure that before the therapy dog comes in that we know we have it. It's like a lot of other things, like on the weekends when AAU is using our gym, we ask for a file of their insurance. Again, just like the same thing here, that doesn't mean that someone's not going to bring us into a legal issue because it is our facility, but ultimately our insurance then says, wait a minute, there's this other policy. And that's what they would do here. They would say, wait a minute, there's another policy here. This one is the one that's covering this.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no concern. They put in their notes to us that many schools, they're saying recently we've had a lot of inquiries about therapy dogs. We took the opportunity to reach out to the Alliance of Therapy Dogs to provide our members with details on the program. So we did share that. So it's becoming more and more common in schools. So.
Do you ever see, or should it be mentioned, the number of dogs you would allow on a day? I mean, is it reasonable to have more than one in a building at a time? And is that something that you just want to restrict on the approval process?
Yeah, I think that's why we have such a specific approval process. When we've had, I'll just use Read Across America for an example, we may have had 4 dogs in the building that day. Because dogs, they get tired too, they're working, so we may have 2 in one space, but then one needs to tap out and go play, or just like the police canines, they work for some time, then they're off for some time. I wouldn't want to. I think it's just dependent on what the activity that they're used for. But I wouldn't see in our typical like day-to-day more than one. It would only be if going back to the Read Across America, that was like an opportunity for every classroom to experience a therapy dog in a day. And that would have just been too much for 1 or 2. So.
I think the same was true if I remember like the high school, like during finals week, they sometimes will bring in multiple dogs from an organization at different times throughout the day. So that's common too.
So when you do the advance notice for allergies, I understand targeting the classroom you intend to bring the dog into, but inadvertently the dog walks through the hallway, the kids walk through the hallway. Is it necessary to do more of a all-call for the building, that this dog is going to be in the building? I mean, some kids are hypersensitive.
I think, especially if we look at heritage, for example, we would definitely, before the dog came in, do communication with all families. And although we do an all-call for allergies, we would probably ask for an additional one. I imagine this more as, these are the 3 spaces the dog is in, and students come to the dog over the dog goes around to everywhere for that very reason. Hallways, or kids switch classrooms, it might not be their homeroom, but so I think that would be a very intentional movement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And my last question.
These are good questions.
So it says the therapy dog must be under control of the handler. Emily has this dog, comes in repeatedly. Could another staff member be kind of in charge with? I mean, I envision it's going to get pretty comfortable and pretty regular. And is it restrictive to say, Emily's going to be a very busy person, that she be in that room all the time? Should there be language that might be a little more flexible than her always having that leash on the dog? You know what I mean? Yeah.
What kind of along with it, does it impact her responsibility?
That's right. She might be called out in an emergency, and then there's the dog, and who's in charge of the dog? According to this policy, she kind of has to be there all the time, so maybe give a little flexibility to that issue, so you know, I like to follow policy, and I understand that sometimes situations occur,
Yeah.
but if it's going to be a frequent thing for her to bring in her dog, and other staff members also might have dogs, and when they become very familiar, you know, what happens? Oh, yeah, you know, bring that child in because it's been very successful, but I can't sit here and babysit you with my dog.
Yes, I love the question and the thought. And so I wonder if we just need to get some language that gives us a little more flexibility
Yeah.
without, you know,
Yeah,
it can be anyone. I mean, it should
Thank
be
you.
someone who
Yeah.
has some training and knows
and
cues.
has been with the dog.
Right.
And, you know, the handler or a trusted, yeah, somebody that doesn't
Yeah,
tie her train,
yes.
train,
Yeah.
something.
I
I would
think
maybe
that's,
ask, if Emily has insurance, I would maybe ask her what their language is, if they're even able to leave a dog, you know,
Yeah.
or does
That's a
their
good-
insurance say,
yeah.
like, you have to be with the dog at all times?
yeah,
Because I can see where that could, you know, be a potential breach of policy for another.
yeah. And she did this when she was in Sun Prairie, so I mean, we can just
Check with her.
check with her and
Thank you.
utilize her expertise.
Thank you.
I don't think it was every single day in Sun Prairie, so.
No, and I don't imagine that's a lot of responsibility and a lot for a dog to do.
Right,
but,
yes, right.
you know, still, it could be weekly.
Yeah.
So I'll ask from a cost standpoint, it sounds like insurance, it is no cost, even though, I mean, I get that assumption. Yeah, it's fine, it's acceptable, but it doesn't impact us in any way whatsoever. So it seems this is probably more of it's a business that's happening and there's some cost associated. If we're gonna contract with someone to bring them in, do we have any idea what those fees are? Or
They're all, I mean, the ones that I've worked with, there's no fee.
No
They're
fee.
volunteers that bring the dogs in.
Okay,
Nice. Well, I'm excited. I think this could really benefit some of our kids. But, you know, I appreciate all that you've done and examined and made happen, so thank you.
Is there anything else that you feel needs clarity before we bring it to
well, I think
discuss?
just to your point of what you were looking for, Joan, there, if
Yeah.
there's some wording that you want in there in terms of
Yeah, I think we could edit that today.
a
Yeah, get it.
backup handler sort of thing.
Yeah, something that, and, you know, it might be a good idea to, you know, as public reads this, specifically say, you know, if the dog is going to be, you know, in the school, and just something so that the parents would be alerted, not just the ones that
Right.
you're going to target, but that could make some parents nervous.
Yeah,
And it's easy enough to do with Annie. She
yep.
can blast things out easily.
I think the question for Emily is really, what does her insurance policy allow? She
Yeah.
might have to call them,
Uh-huh.
because my guess is, if I was providing that insurance, I would say the trained person needs to be with the dog or coverage will end. But
Yeah,
I'm just guessing.
yeah.
Thank you for those suggestions.
So with that.
I make a motion to move this on to the full board Monday.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pretty sure that's the last agenda item.
Mhm.
So, I think our future meetings are, at least the process for them, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.